In the vast desert of Canaan, Isaac and Rebekah's family lived with a great hope, God's promise of a mighty nation. But when Rebekah became pregnant, that joy was mixed with anxiety due to the struggle inside her. God said, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples will be separated from your body. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." This prophecy not only shaped the destinies of the two brothers, Esau and Jacob, but also raised a troubling question. Why did God choose the younger, going against tradition? This script will take you through the dramatic journey of a family where faith, cunning, and fateful choices intertwine. Esau, the strong older brother who despised the sacred blessing, contrasts with Jacob, the clever younger brother who yearned for God's favor. Family conflict, deceit, and the pain of loss will take the audience to the climax, only to end with reconciliation and a profound lesson about God's sovereignty. Let's explore this story, where His plan transcends human understanding, inviting us to cherish His grace and live by faith. Before we continue, leave a comment saying, "God is the one who arranges everything," to express your belief in His power. Beneath the vast sky of Canaan's desert, where the scorching sun stretched across the golden sands, a small family carried within them God's great promise. Isaac, the son of Abraham, walked the path of faith his father had laid before him amid barren hills and uncertain days. The Bible says, "The Lord had said to Abram, 'Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.'" Genesis 12:1-3. That promise, like a blazing fire in Isaac's soul, guided him through the challenges of a foreign land. But that light also came with darkness, as he faced the pain of infertility, a harsh trial for a family chosen to bring forth a great nation. Isaac married Rebekah, a beautiful woman from Paddan Aram, who carried a heart full of love for God. Rebekah's journey began with love and hope, as she left her homeland, riding on a camel, crossing the desert to meet Isaac. The Bible describes, Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her. Genesis 24:67. Their love, like a refreshing breeze in the desert, brought joy and comfort. But as the years passed, their tent remained silent, with no sound of children's laughter. That silence, like the dry winds of the desert, gnawed at their faith. On long nights, when the moonlight shone through the tent, Rebekah often looked at Isaac, wondering if God's promise was truly meant for them. Isaac, with unwavering faith like his father, refused to let despair take over. He knelt on the earth beneath the starry sky, lifting up a prayer to God, earnestly asking for Rebekah to bear children. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife, because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. Genesis 25:21. The good news came like an unexpected rain in the desert, rekindling hope in their hearts. Rebekah was pregnant, not with one, but with two children. That joy, like a roaring fire, reignited their faith in God's faithfulness. Isaac took Rebekah's hand, smiled, and felt that God's promise to Abraham was slowly coming to life. But that joy was short-lived. Within Rebekah's womb, the two children struggled fiercely, causing pain that left her bewildered. Each push, each contraction, whispered that the fate of her children was anything but ordinary. "Why is this happening to me?" she wondered, her heart filled with unease. Rebekah, trusting in God, sought His guidance. She knelt in the tent, under the flickering light of the fire, and prayed, "Lord, faithful God of Abraham, please help me understand your purpose." In the humble tent in the desert of Canaan, the flickering light from the fire illuminated the anxious face of Rebekah. The joy of carrying twins, once like a refreshing rain after years of infertility, was now overshadowed by an odd pain. The children in her womb fought fiercely, as if two opposing forces were at war. Each push, each pain, made Rebekah feel that something greater was at work, beyond human understanding. She was not just a mother waiting for her children, but a devout woman carrying the weight of God's promise to Abraham. The Bible says, "I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give them all these lands, and through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed." Genesis 26:4. But why, amidst that hope, was she faced with such uncertainty. Rebekah refused to let fear control her. With unwavering faith, she knelt on the dry earth, looking up to the sky, and urgently called out to God, "Lord, faithful God of Isaac and Abraham, why must I endure this? What is happening to the children within me?" Her voice trembled, yet it was filled with hope. Imagine that moment. A woman in the vast desert seeking enlightenment from the Creator. Have you ever faced a big question in life? One where only God holds the answer? Rebekah did what every believer is called to do. She placed her trust in the Lord, even when everything seemed tangled. God, who always hears the cries of His people, answered her. In the stillness of the desert, a voice spoke, clear and powerful, like a wind blowing through Rebekah's soul. The Bible records, "The Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." Genesis 25:23. This prophecy was not just the answer to Rebekah's pain, but a declaration of destiny, revealing God's supernatural plan. The 2 children in her womb were not just 2 individuals. They were the beginning of 2 nations, Edom and Israel. And the most shocking part, the older will serve the younger. In a world where the birthright was supreme, this declaration turned human order upside down. Pause for a moment to feel the weight of this prophecy. In the culture of the time, the firstborn son was always given priority for blessings and inheritance. But God, the ruler of all things, chose to go against tradition. Why? Because His plan is not based on human rules, but on His eternal purpose. He chose to defy the order that humans thought was right, to fulfill His supernatural plan. In a world where the birthright was untouchable, God chose the younger, Jacob, to carry the blessing. This upended society's rules, showing that God's plan goes beyond our understanding. If you believe that He can do the impossible, change destinies and open new paths, leave an amen to affirm your belief in God's absolute power and faithfulness. The Bible reminds us, the Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. This prophecy not only shaped the destinies of Esau and Jacob, but also serves as a reminder that God chooses whom He wills in the way He desires. When Rebekah heard the prophecy, she must have felt both awe and comfort. She understood that what was happening was not by chance. The pain, the struggle within her, were signs of a greater purpose. But the prophecy also placed a burden on her. How would she raise 2 children whose destinies were already set in opposition? She held that prophecy in her heart like a sacred treasure, yet also like a secret filled with tension. Rebekah didn't know that this prophecy would guide all her actions and her mistakes on the journey ahead. As the sun set, Rebekah stood outside the tent, gazing at the horizon. The desert wind blew through, carrying a feeling of both peace and unease. She knew that God was at work, but the road ahead would not be easy. 2 nations, 2 destinies were being formed within her. The prophecy, like a blazing fire, lit the way but also tested the faith of the whole family. The story was now ready to transition into a new phase, where God's plan would begin to unfold through the choices of humanity. But before we go any further, let's meet the 2 main characters of this story, Esau and Jacob. Esau, the older brother, was born with red skin and covered in hair, like a warrior of the desert. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau. Genesis 25:25. Esau grew up strong, loving hunting, and living freely in the wilderness. He was the pride of Isaac, his father, who loved wild game, and the adventurous tales of his son. Every time Esau returned with his prey, Isaac would smile, seeing a reflection of himself in his son's ruggedness. In contrast, Jacob, Esau's younger brother, had a gentle nature, preferring to stay in the tent, close to his mother Rebekah. After this, his brother came out with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob. Genesis 25:26. The name Jacob means holder of the heel or supplanter, a sign for telling his destiny. He was thoughtful, clever, and always longing for something greater. Rebekah, with her special love for Jacob, often spoke of God's promise, planting in him a desire for a better future. But that love, though deep, unknowingly sowed seeds of division. This family was not perfect. Isaac loved Esau for his strength, while Rebekah loved Jacob for his closeness. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Genesis 25:28. This favoritism, like a smoldering fire, waited for the day it would burst into conflict. Can a family chosen by God stand firm when love is divided? That question hung in the air, leading us into the coming storms, where the prophecy would begin to reveal its power. Under the fiery sunset of the desert of Canaan, the tents of Isaac and Rebekah became the stage for a dramatic story, where faith and the hearts of men intertwined. Esau and Jacob, twin brothers but opposites, grew up in the favoritism of their parents. Esau, with his strong build, roamed the fields, bringing home prey that made Isaac proud. On evenings when the smell of roasted meat filled the air, Isaac would often pat Esau on the back and laugh heartily, saying, "My son, you are the joy of my father." But in the corner of the tent, Rebekah quietly observed, her heart leaning toward Jacob, the thoughtful son, who always listened intently to the stories of God's promise. This favoritism was not just a small crack. It was like an underground river, quietly flowing, ready to break the peace of the family. Esau, with his free-spirited nature, seemed unconcerned by his mother's whispers about the sacred blessing. He lived for the present, loving the freedom of the fields more than distant prophecies. Meanwhile, Jacob, with his sharp gaze, always wrestled with the birthright, the privilege carrying the blessing of God. Rebekah, who had heard God's prophecy herself, seemed to see a greater future for Jacob. She told him about the promise made to Abraham, about a nation that would be established, stirring in him a longing to claim what he believed was his rightful place. But why did a family chosen by God fall into such tension? The Bible does not hide the mistakes of humans, even those who are faithful. Isaac and Rebekah, despite their love for God, allowed their private affections to divide them. Their favoritism not only affected the two brothers, but also laid the foundation for greater conflicts. Have you ever wondered how small choices in your own family could lead to such big consequences? The story of Esau and Jacob reminds us that, even in moments that seem ordinary, God is still at work, weaving his plan. If you feel the depth of this lesson and want to continue exploring meaningful stories from the Bible, be sure to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Let's learn together and live according to God's perfect plan in every situation of life. Esau returned from the field, sweating profusely, his laughter echoing in the air. By the fire, Jacob stirred the pot of lentil stew, his eyes gleaming with intent. This small moment would mark the beginning of an event that would change everything. Esau, hungry and exhausted, would face a fateful choice. Jacob, clever and scheming, would seize the opportunity to draw closer to the blessing. And above all, God, the sovereign, was watching, ready to use even the mistakes of men to fulfill his purpose. The Bible says, "The Lord works out everything to its proper end." Proverbs 16:4. Would Esau cherish his blessing? Would Jacob walk in integrity or craftiness? The answer lies ahead, where the desert of Canaan would witness dramatic turning points. The tension in the family grew more apparent, like the desert wind picking up before the storm. Esau and Jacob, two brothers, two destinies, stood at the crossroads of their lives. The prophecy hidden in Rebekah's heart, like a fire waiting to ignite, would soon reveal itself, leading the entire family on a faith journey filled with trials. Let's move forward to see God's plan unfold amid the mistakes and desires of mankind. Under the starry sky of Canaan, Rebekah sat quietly by the fire, her mind still echoing with God's words. "Two nations are in your womb. The older will serve the younger." Genesis 25:23. That prophecy, like a lamp lighting the path of faith, also hung over her like a sword, causing her heart to ache with unrest. As a mother, she longed to love both of her sons, but as a devout woman, she knew that God's purpose surpassed human emotions. The prophecy was not just a prediction, it was an invitation for her to walk in obedience, even when the road ahead was filled with challenges. Rebekah kept the prophecy secret, not sharing it with Isaac as though she were carrying a sacred secret. Perhaps she feared that revealing it would disturb the family, since Isaac loved Esau more, and she was closer to Jacob. That secret, like a seed planted in her heart, would soon sprout into fateful actions. Have you ever carried a truth too difficult to speak, knowing that it could change everything? Rebekah stood at a crossroads. Trust God to fulfill His word on His own, or intervene with her own strength? As the fire dimmed, Rebekah looked toward the tent where Esau and Jacob were sleeping. Two children, two destinies, already ordained by God from the womb. The Bible reminds us, "For the Lord's word is right and true. He is faithful in all He does." Psalm 33:4. The prophecy was not just the beginning of conflict, but also a promise of God's faithfulness. Yet the path to the fulfillment of that word would be filled with drama, testing both faith and hearts. The story was now ready to step into the fateful choices, where the desert of Canaan would witness God's plan revealed. In the desert of Canaan, where the scorching sun stretched over barren hills, Isaac and Rebekah's tent stood quietly, like a small oasis in the sea of sand. But inside, a storm of emotions was silently forming. The prophecy, "The older will serve the younger," Genesis 25:23, spoken by God to Rebekah, still remained a secret in her heart, but human choices were about to make that word begin to unfold. Esau and Jacob, twin brothers, yet as opposite as fire and water, stood at a crossroads that would change not only their destinies, but the history of two nations. Imagine the scene that evening. The sun hung low, casting a golden hue over the endless stretches of sand. Inside the tent, smoke from the fire rose, blending with the rich aroma of the red lentil stew. Jacob, with calloused hands from tending the flocks, stirred the pot, but his eyes were not on the flames. His sharp, calculating mind was consumed with one great thought: the birthright, the sacred privilege carrying God's blessing. From a young age, Rebekah had told him about God's promise to Abraham. "I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and will give them all these lands, and through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed." Genesis 26:4. Those stories, like seeds planted in Jacob's heart, sprouted into a burning desire to claim the position he believed was his destiny. Jacob was not one to act impulsively. He observed Esau, his strong but impulsive older brother, and recognized his fatal flaw: living for the present, disregarding spiritual value. Esau, with the appearance of a desert warrior, loved the freedom of the fields. He roamed with bow and arrow, bringing back game that Isaac, their father, who adored wild meat, proudly celebrated. Every evening when Esau recounted his hunts, Isaac laughed heartily, patting his son's back, saying, "My son, you are the joy of my father." But in Esau's heart, the birthright, the responsibility of leading the family and receiving the sacred blessing, seemed more like a burden than a blessing. That difference, like an underground river between the two brothers, quietly flowed, waiting for the day it would erupt into conflict. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps broke the silence outside the tent. Esau entered, his face flushed with hunger and exhaustion after a long day of hunting under the desert sun. Sweat ran down his forehead, his clothes caked with dust, and his eyes were clouded by the gnawing hunger. He collapsed beside the fire, breathing heavily, his eyes fixed on the pot of red stew. "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." Genesis 25:30. He growled, his voice hoarse, with no hint of restraint. Esau, with his free-spirited nature, thought of nothing but his empty stomach. The smell of the stew, like a sweet invitation, clouded any thoughts of responsibility, the future, or blessings. But Jacob, the clever younger brother, did not rush to comply. He stopped stirring the pot, his eyes gleaming with a bold idea. This moment, like a door opening, was the opportunity he had been waiting for to turn his desire into reality. In a calm but sharp voice, he said, "First sell me your birthright," Genesis 25:31. The offer, like a lightning bolt on a clear day, froze the air in the tent. The birthright was not just a title, but a sacred privilege, carrying God's promise and the role of leading the family. It was the bridge to the blessing that Abraham and Isaac had guarded. But Esau, overcome by hunger, scoffed, his voice full of indifference. "Look, I am about to die. What good is the birthright to me?" Genesis 25:32. His words, seemingly casual, were like a knife severing the link between him and God's blessing. Jacob, seizing the opportunity, pushed further to seal the deal. "Swear to me first," Genesis 25:33. He wanted to ensure that this oath could not be undone. Esau, with his stomach growling and his mind weary, thought no more of it. He raised his hand, swearing to sell his birthright to his younger brother, all in exchange for a bowl of stew. The Bible recounts, "So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright." Genesis 25:33-34. That moment, like thunder echoing through the desert, marked an irreversible turning point. Esau, driven by momentary desire, had neglected the sacred blessing. Jacob, with his cunning, moved one step closer to fulfilling the prophecy. Pause to feel the weight of this decision. Esau was not forced. He chose to place his physical hunger above his spiritual blessing. Have you ever faced a moment where temporary temptation made you forget what truly matters? This story is a warning that even the smallest decisions can lead to eternal consequences. Meanwhile, Jacob, though achieving his goal, laid the foundation for a path filled with controversy. He did not trust God to fulfill the prophecy on his own, but instead chose cunning to manipulate destiny. As Esau left the tent, the taste of the lentil stew still on his lips, he walked away carefree, unaware that he had just lost the most precious thing. Jacob, holding the empty bowl, stood quietly by the fire, his heart racing with a mix of joy and unease. In the distance, Rebekah, though not witnessing the event, seemed to feel the shift in the soul of the family. The prophecy was slowly taking shape, but the road ahead would not be easy. God, the sovereign over all things, was still watching, ready to use even human mistakes to fulfill his purpose. The Bible reminds us, "The plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations." Psalm 33:11. The desert son of Canaan slowly faded, but inside Isaac's tent, an emotional storm was brewing. After Esau sold his birthright to Jacob for a bowl of lentil stew, the prophecy, "The older will serve the younger," Genesis 25:23, seemed to have moved one step closer. But the birthright was just the beginning. The father's blessing, a sacred word of power from God, was still the final prize. And now Jacob, with Rebekah's help, was ready to execute a bold plan to claim that blessing, pushing the family to the climax of conflict. After the emotional storm in Isaac's tent, where Jacob deceitfully received the blessing and Esau cried out in pain, the desert of Canaan became still, but not peaceful. The prophecy, "The older will serve the younger," Genesis 25:23, had begun to unfold. But the road to that point was paved with mistakes and tears. The next chapter opened like dawn after a dark night, bringing with it reflections on the consequences of choices and profound spiritual lessons about God's sovereignty. Esau lost the blessing, Jacob gained it, but both paid the price. And above all, God, the faithful one, was still weaving his plan amidst the brokenness of mankind. Imagine the scene. Jacob, with his heart pounding, hurriedly left the tent in the darkness. Isaac's blessing, though now his, did not bring the joy he had expected. The sound of Esau's cries still echoed in his mind, and the threat of death from his older brother made Jacob tremble. Rebekah, with a heavy heart, arranged for Jacob to flee to her brother Laban's house in Padan Aram. "Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran." Genesis 27:43, she said, her voice trembling but firm. Jacob, once cunning to claim the blessing, was now a fugitive, without a home, without a family. The spiritual blessing, though precious, led him on a journey of solitude and uncertainty. Meanwhile, Esau, with bloodshot eyes filled with rage and pain, stood silent beside the tent. He had lost his birthright for a bowl of lentil stew, and now his father's blessing was stolen from him as well. Isaac's words echoed, "You will live by the sword and you will serve your brother." Genesis 27:40. Esau, once free to roam the fields, was now bound by a prophecy he could not change. He chose to leave his family and went to the land of Edom, where he became the father of a nation, but not the nation chosen by God. The Bible records, Esau, that is Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir. Genesis 36:8. Esau's path, though still blessed by God in his own way, was a path of loss, beginning with the disregard for the sacred blessing. Pause to feel the contrast between the two brothers. Jacob, though he gained the blessing, had to pay the price of separation and fear. Esau, though he lost the blessing, still received God's provision, but not as part of the chosen people. Both in their own ways reap the consequences of their choices. Have you ever realized that our decisions, though seemingly small, can lead to unexpected paths? This story reminds us that, though humans make mistakes, God is never out of control. The Bible affirms, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Romans 8:28. Looking further, the consequences of these events were not limited to Isaac's family. From Esau, the nation of Edom was formed, a nation that frequently clashed with Israel, the nation descended from Jacob. God's prophecy was not only fulfilled in personal lives, but also shaped the history of two nations. The Bible later records that Edom was ultimately subdued by Israel, just as the prophecy declared, "The older will serve the younger." But the road to that point was not easy. Jacob, on his journey of escape, would face great trials, from Laban's deceit to lonely nights in the desert. Esau, though he built a new life, would forever carry the wound of loss. Rebekah, the mother behind the plan, did not escape the consequences either. She preserved the prophecy, but the price she paid was losing Jacob, the son she loved. She did not know that she would never see him again. Her choice, though rooted in faith, left behind a broken family. This story does not shy away from the truth. Even the faithful can make mistakes, and those mistakes leave deep marks. But above all, God remains faithful. He used Jacob's deceit, Esau's indifference, and Rebekah's cunning to fulfill his purpose. The journey of this family, though painful, is proof that God's plan always transcends human understanding. As dawn broke, Jacob walked down the dusty road, carrying the blessing, but also the fear. Esau, in the land of Edom, began a new life, but with a heart still wounded. The prophecy had been partially fulfilled, but the story was not over. The next chapter will lead us into profound spiritual lessons, where God reveals his justice and love, even amidst human brokenness. Under the starry sky of the desert of Canaan, the story of Esau and Jacob left deep wounds, but also opened the light of spiritual reflection. The prophecy, "The older will serve the younger," Genesis 25:23, was fulfilled through mistaken choices, deceit, and pain. But amidst the brokenness, God revealed his sovereignty and love, teaching us timeless lessons about faith, valuing blessings, and his faithfulness. The first lesson is about the value of spiritual blessings. Esau, driven by momentary hunger, sold his birthright, and through his indifference, he lost his father's blessing. The Bible describes his actions. "So Esau despised his birthright," Genesis 25:34. Esau's choice reminds us that what God gives, his grace, promises, or calling, is precious and should never be taken lightly. Have you ever been tempted to chase after temporary things, neglecting the eternal blessings God has reserved for you? This story calls us to cherish the sacred, placing faith above fleeting desires. The second lesson is about the danger of relying on cunning instead of trusting God. Jacob, though chosen to receive the blessing, used deceit to obtain it. Rebekah, though believing in the prophecy, tried to help God in her own way. The consequence was a broken family, with Jacob forced to flee and Rebekah losing her beloved son. But the miracle is that God still used their mistakes to fulfill his purpose. The Bible affirms, "The Lord works out everything to its proper end," Proverbs 16:4. This lesson calls us to trust God, even when the path ahead is unclear, instead of relying on our own strength. Ultimately, the story of Esau and Jacob reveals God's absolute sovereignty. The prophecy was not fulfilled because of human perfection, but because of his faithfulness. Though Esau was indifferent, Jacob deceitful, and Rebekah cunning, God still guided everything according to his will. From Jacob, the nation of Israel was formed, carrying God's promise to all nations. From Esau, the nation of Edom was born, but ultimately it had to submit to Israel, as the prophecy declared. The Bible reminds us, "The plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations," Psalm 33:11. God is not limited by our mistakes. He turns brokenness into an opportunity to display his grace. Imagine the stars sparkling over the desert as a reminder that God is always present, even in seasons of sorrow. The story of Esau and Jacob is not just history, it is a reflection of our own faith journey. It calls us to cherish blessings, trust in God, and live in obedience. Though the path Jacob and Esau walked was filled with hardship, God blessed each in his own unique way, showing that his love and mercy are limitless and never fail. Their story is coming to a close, but it does not end with bitterness or sorrow. It ends with hope for reconciliation and an invitation to live in the light of God. Even though cunning, sorrow, and deep lessons about faith intertwine in the story, as dawn begins to break over the desert of Canaan, Esau and Jacob are stepping into the victorious moment of reconciliation, where God's love and grace shine. The prophecy, the older will serve the younger, Genesis 25:23, has been fulfilled, but not in the way of one winning and the other losing. It was accomplished through God's love and mercy, showing that his plan transcends human understanding. This story does not end with a bitter conclusion, but with a beautiful picture full of hope for forgiveness, blessings, and an invitation to live by faith. This is the moment when light overcomes darkness, where God's plan is revealed clearly and powerfully. Imagine that scene. Many years after Jacob deceived and took the blessing, forcing him to flee from Esau, the two brothers now stand before each other once again. Jacob, now bearing the name Israel after a mystical encounter with God, returns to Canaan with his family and wealth. He is anxious, his heart restless as he recalls Esau's threatening words to kill him. But to his surprise, Esau, now grown and living in Edom, no longer holds on to hatred. Instead, he has forgiven and accepted Jacob. The Bible describes the emotional meeting, but Esau ran to meet Jacob, embraced him, threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Genesis 33:4. The tears of the two brothers were no longer filled with pain and despair, as they had been before, but with forgiveness and reconciliation. This scene is like a cool breeze blowing through the desert, soothing the wounds that once ran deep within them. Their reconciliation is not just a simple emotional reunion between two brothers, but a testimony of the healing love God gives. Esau, though he lost the birthright and the official blessing, was still blessed by God in his own way. He built a prosperous life in Edom with a family and wealth, proving that God does not forget those who are his children. Jacob, despite enduring years of fleeing and harsh trials, eventually became the patriarch of the nation of Israel, carrying with him the great promise of God. Both brothers, each in their own way, received unique grace from God, even though they had made great mistakes in the past. The Bible reminds us, the Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. Psalm 103:8. God did not reject Esau for his mistakes, nor did he turn away Jacob for his deceit. He still blessed them, showing that his love surpasses all human actions. But this story doesn't end with the reconciliation between the two brothers. It is an invitation for each of us to reflect and learn. The story of Esau and Jacob teaches us that even though our past is filled with mistakes and failures, God always opens the way for forgiveness and renewal. Do you believe that even in your failures, God still has a wonderful plan for you? This story encourages us to let go of hatred, as Esau did, and trust in God, as Jacob learned through the many trials of his life. It also reminds us to cherish the spiritual blessings God has given, to live in obedience, and to walk in his love. Imagine that beautiful image, the sunlight shining through the desert, reflecting on the smiles of Esau and Jacob as they embraced. That moment is the picture of hope, the hope that God can heal every wound and turn brokenness into something better. The prophecy was fulfilled not by human strength, but by the absolute power of God. The people of Israel from Jacob would become a light to all nations, carrying God's promise to the world. The people of Edom, though not the chosen people, still lived under his provision, showing that God's love for humanity is vast and limitless. This story concludes with a clear message. God is just, loving, and his plan is always perfect, beyond all that we can understand. As we leave the desert of Canaan, let us carry this valuable lesson in our hearts. Live by faith, learn to forgive like Esau, and trust in God as Jacob did. God is writing the story of your life, and he invites you to walk in his light. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him. Romans 15:13. Answer his call and let his grace guide you in all circumstances of life. Thank you for joining us through the emotional journey of Esau and Jacob, a story of cunning, pain, and forgiveness under God's sovereignty. From Esau's wrong choices, Jacob's cunning, to the tearful reconciliation, we see that God is always faithful, turning brokenness into hope. This story reminds us to cherish spiritual blessings, trust in Him instead of relying on our own strength, and open our hearts to forgiveness as Esau did. These lessons, like the light of the desert, guide us to live strongly in faith. We hope this video has touched your heart, igniting faith and inspiration. If you love this story, please like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next biblical journeys. Your support motivates us to bring more meaningful content. What reflections do you have from the story of Esau and Jacob? Please leave a comment, and we would love to hear your thoughts. Goodbye for now, and may you have a day full of blessings. Walk in the light of God, and we'll see you in the next video.
Imagine a moment in sacred history. A mother, Rebecca, is pregnant, feeling powerful kicks from within her womb, not the usual joy of pregnancy, but a fierce struggle. She kneels down, asking God, "Why is this happening?" And He replies, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." Genesis 25, verse 23. From that moment, two twin brothers were born. Esau, red and hairy, like a warrior ready for battle. Jacob, grasping his brother's heel, carrying a destiny that was in stark contrast. Esau, the ancestor of the Edomites, and Jacob, the father of Israel, began a story that would span centuries. But today, have you ever wondered, where are the descendants of Esau now? Do the Edomites, once brothers with Israel, still exist among us? The Bible does not leave us in the dark. From the majestic mountains of Seir to the deserts of modern-day Jordan, the footprints of Esau still echo. This is not just a journey to uncover history, but an invitation to look into the great intentions of God dividing, blessing, and testing faith. Are you ready to step into this story? Let's seek the truth together in today's video. From the prophetic words echoed in Rebekah's heart, a vivid picture unfolds. Two twin brothers, Esau and Jacob, not just the sons of Isaac, but the seeds of two great nations, Edom and Israel. The Bible recounts their beginnings. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife, because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. Genesis 25, verse 21. This is not a mere coincidence. It is God's answer to a father's prayer, paving the way for a legacy that would span through time. But what makes Esau and Jacob so special? They are both descendants of the Semitic line, the lineage of Shem, Noah's son, carrying the same blood that flowed from the time after the Great Flood. From their sun-kissed skin to their faith in the Creator, they are bound together in a sacred heritage. However, don't think of this as a Hollywood-style harmonious family. Esau, the older brother, grew up with strong hands wielding a bow and arrow, his feet racing across the fields, and a heart yearning for freedom. Jacob, on the other hand, was more subdued, preferred to sit in the tent and ponder the Word of God. This difference wasn't just about personality. It was a sign of two destinies that God had drawn out. The Edomites of Esau and the Israelites of Jacob, though they were blood brothers, walked on separate paths. Have you ever noticed that even within your own family, small differences can lead to great stories? Esau was not just the older brother in his family. He was the ancestor of the Edomites, a people closely tied to Israel but always standing on the fringes of the covenant. Imagine this. Two twin brothers sharing Semitic blood, growing up under the same tent, yet their destinies diverged like two rivers flowing toward different horizons. The Edomites and Israelites were not just neighbors. They were brothers connected by blood, but separated by the will of God. When Esau stepped out of his parents' tent, he had no idea he was carrying a legacy that would change history. The story is starting to heat up. Can you feel its pull? Get ready, because things are about to get even more dramatic as we delve into their birth. If Esau and Jacob were two branches of a river separated from the same Semitic bloodline, the story truly ignites when Rebekah becomes pregnant with them. This was no ordinary pregnancy, filled with sweet moments for a future mother. Imagine Rebekah feels powerful kicks in her womb, not gentle joy but chaos, as if two souls are wrestling for the right to live. The Bible captures that moment. The babies jostled each other within her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord, Genesis 25, verse 22. She didn't sit still in her confusion. With a heavy heart, she knelt down, pleading with God, "What is happening inside me?" And he did not leave her in darkness. The Lord's response thundered like lightning in the clear sky. Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Genesis 25, verse 23. Can you hear it clearly? Not just two children, but two nations, two destinies, forming right within her body. But let's pause for a moment to feel the wonder. Tradition tells us that when Rebekah passed by the cold, lifeless temples of foreign gods, one child kicked fiercely, as if drawn by the darkness. Then, as she approached the house of study, where the word of God was taught, the other kicked, longing for the light of truth. This is no coincidence. It is a sign of the spiritual battle that began in the womb. When Rebekah knelt down and heard God say that two nations were growing within her, did you feel his wonder? This is the moment he transforms the small into the great. If your heart beats with love and the power of God, leave an amen in the comments to honor him together. Rebekah knew she couldn't unravel this mystery on her own. She turned to Shem, the son of Noah, a wise prophet still living at that time, who had witnessed the days after the great flood. With eyes that sparkled with true understanding, Shem looked at her and confirmed the word of the Lord. From her would come two opposing nations, one strong in body, the other deep in spirit. They would rise and fall in turn, never fully at peace, like two flames that cannot burn quietly together in one hearth. This prophecy was not just an explanation. It was a roadmap for the future, a promise intertwined with challenges. But strangely, Rebekah kept this to herself from Isaac. Why? Perhaps she sensed the weight of this destiny was too great, too dramatic for her husband to grasp at that moment. Then the momentous day arrived, like a scene from a slow-motion film filled with tension. Esau was born first, all red and covered in hair, like a little warrior stepping out from his mother's womb, ready to conquer the world. Jacob followed closely behind, gripping his brother's heel, as if from that very first moment, it foretold a struggle that would span generations. Can you feel the wonder mixed with a shiver of this moment? This isn't a fairy tale to be told by the fireplace. This is the intention of God, etched into history with sacred ink. Esau and Jacob are not just two twin brothers. They symbolize two paths, two nations, and a grander plan unfolding before us. The story is climbing higher. Do you feel your heart racing just a bit? Get ready, for what's coming next will be even more dramatic. After Esau and Jacob emerged from a fateful prophecy within Rebekah's womb, the moment they were born was an unforgettable scene. Imagine the dim light in Isaac's tent, the first cries ringing out, and Esau appearing red and covered in hair, like a tiny warrior ready to face the world. The Bible clearly describes the first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. So they named him Esau, Genesis 25, verse 25. The name Esau is not random. In Hebrew, it relates to Azu, meaning the one who is ready. Ready for what? Look at this boy. Unlike fragile newborns, Esau seems to have been equipped from the womb to run across the fields, to wield a bow and arrow, to live a strong and wild life. Now, let's compare this with Jacob, who was born right after him, clutching his brother's heel. Jacob was gentle, less hairy, and had the demeanor of a thoughtful person, preferred to stay in the tents rather than out in the open. This difference wasn't just skin deep. It was a mark of the two paths that God had ordained for them. Esau, with his red skin and thick hair, seemed almost born to master the wilderness. Jacob, with his refined appearance, was drawn toward the word of God and wisdom. Have you ever wondered why God created these two twin brothers with such stark contrasts? For Christians, we understand that nothing in the Bible is random. Every detail carries profound significance. The name Esau is not just a label. It's a declaration of his nature. The ready one reflects how he grew up, a hunter, a man of action, always seeking adrenaline out in the fields. While Jacob sat studying the scriptures with their father, Esau wandered among the hills, living the life that God had uniquely prepared for him. This unique characteristic, his red skin and hairy body, not only set him apart in the family, but also marked him as the ancestor of the Edomites, a people who would carry the same strength and resilience as he did. Think about it. A child born with such clear signs. Could it really just be a coincidence? Esau is the beginning of something great. Not just Jacob's brother, but the father of a nation that will leave its mark in the history of salvation. From the moment he cried out into the world, his destiny was shaped not to stay in a tent like Jacob, but to step out into the world and build a legacy. The story is heating up quickly. Can you feel Esau's power? This is the moment when everything starts to move, leading us to the land and people he left behind. Hold on tight, because the journey is about to turn a new page. Esau did not stop at being the older brother or a wandering hunter. He stepped out of Jacob's shadow to claim a greater inheritance, the land of Seir. Imagine this. After days of hunting and disputes with his brother, Esau led his family to a rugged yet majestic red mountain region, a place the Bible calls home to the Edomites. Esau, that is, Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir, Genesis 36 verse 8. Edom. This name is not just a nickname for Esau, but also the designation of a people and the land they possessed. The word Edom means red in Hebrew, a reminder of Esau's ruddy skin at birth. This is no mere coincidence. It is a fingerprint of God, deeply inscribed with his intentions into the very landscape itself. The land of Seir, now part of southern Jordan, is not a lush green field like the promised land of Israel. It is a rugged mountainous region where desert winds sweep through and red cliffs rise up, challenging the sky. But don't be mistaken. This is a gift from God specifically for Esau. As the people of Israel moved toward Canaan after the Exodus, he said, "The Lord said to me, I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as his own," Deuteronomy 2 verse 5. Do you see? Even though Esau was not chosen for the covenant like Jacob, God still blessed him not with some vague promise, but with a real piece of land, a homeland for his descendants. The Edomites not only survived in Seir, but they thrived. From the sons and grandsons of Esau, like Eliphaz and Taman, they built a society with leaders and kings ruling. Even before Israel had its first king, the Bible lists, these were the kings who reigned in Edom before any Israelite king reigned. Genesis 36 verse 31. Imagine this. While Jacob and his descendants were still tending sheep in Canaan, the Edomites were erecting stone fortresses, trading with caravans, and living as desert warriors. They carried within them the strong, independent spirit of Esau, unafraid of challenges. But this is where the story takes a dramatic turn. The Edomites did not live in isolation. They were situated right at the crossroads of the ancient Middle East, facing Israel, Egypt, and other neighboring nations. When Moses led the Israelites through their land, the Edomites refused to let them pass, standing firm on their homeland. This was not blind hostility. It was a mark of a people who understood the value of the gift that God had given them. Have you ever wondered why God placed these two brother nations so close together, yet on such different paths? Seir is not just a land. It is a symbol of the promise made to Esau. The people of Edom transformed the red mountains into their homes, creating a legacy that reflects the strength of their ancestors. From here, the story rises to new heights. Esau left behind not just name, but a nation that would echo through the ages. But what happens as his family grows, as their culture and language begin to change? The climax is approaching. Get ready, for we are about to delve deeper into the world of the Edomites. As Esau led his family up to the rugged mountains of Seir, he was not just seeking a place to rest after days of hunting. He was laying the foundation for a nation that would bear his name, Edom. Imagine Esau standing among the jagged cliffs, the desert wind tousling his hair, surrounded by his wives and children, those who would transform this harsh land into a true home. The Bible recounts, Esau took his wives and the women of Canaan, Adah daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah daughter of Anna, and Basemath daughter of Ishmael. Genesis 36 verses 2-3. The five wives Judith, Basemath, Mahalath, Adah, and Oholibamah were not just women standing behind Esau. They were the pillars, bringing diversity and vitality to the people of Edom. Esau did not choose his wives carelessly like a carefree hunter. Initially, He married Ada and Oholibamah from the land of Canaan, strong women raised among idol-worshipping tribes. This made Isaac and Rebekah anxious, as they wanted their son to uphold the faith legacy of Abraham. But Esau didn't stop there. Sensing his parents' sorrow, he took Mahalath, also known as Basemath, the daughter of Ishmael, his cousin, who was also a descendant of Abraham. This decision was deeply rooted in Semitic tradition, keeping the bloodline within the family, connecting with the patriarch through lineage. Just think about it. Esau, despite his love for freedom in the open fields, still cared about pleasing his parents in his own way. Have you ever seen someone so rebellious, yet so loyal at the same time? From these marriages, the people of Edom began to take shape. The sons of Esau, Eliphaz, Ruel, Jush, Jalem, and Korah became the first leaders, laying the foundation for the tribes. The Bible notes, these were the sons of Esau's wife Ada, Eliphaz. These were the sons of Basemath, Ruel, Genesis 36 verses 10-12. Then came the grandsons like Taman, Omar, and especially Amalek, who expanded the lineage, turning the people of Edom into a thriving community in the mountains of Seir. But here's where the story adds a layer of drama. Amalek, the grandson of Esau, would later become the ancestor of the Amalekites, the bitter enemies of Israel in the wilderness. The Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim, Exodus 17 verse 8. From a family bound by blood, two branches diverge into rivals of truth that makes your heart ache when you consider God's intentions in all of this. And then there's a detail that makes you stop and think. A descendant of Esau could be Job, the famous figure who suffered in the Old Testament. In the land of Uzi, there lived a man whose name was Job, Job 1 verse 1. Many scholars believe that Uzi was located near the land of Edom. If that's true, then Job, the righteous man who patiently endured horrific trials, carries the bloodline of Esau. This is a surprising twist. From someone like Esau, who loved adrenaline more than a tent, comes a character with profound faith, facing Satan and remaining loyal to God. This reminds us that he can place precious gems in the most unexpected places. If you're feeling excited about the story of Esau, from a wild hunter to the ancestor of a mighty nation, possibly even the grandfather of Job, then give a like to honor the way God works through imperfect people like us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on these inspiring biblical journeys as we explore the truth step by step. The culture of the Edomites reflects Esau himself strong, resilient, and full of adventurous spirit. They not only survived in the desert, but transformed Seir into a center of power. Before Israel even dreamed of the throne, the Edomites had kings like Bela, Jobab, and Husham. These were the kings who reigned in Edom before any Israelite king reigned. Genesis 36 verse 31. They built stone fortresses, traded with caravans from Egypt to Arabia, and lived like true desert warriors, embodying the free spirit of Esau. But their culture was not just about physical strength. It blended influences from Canaan through Ada and Oholibamah, with customs of worship and a wild lifestyle, along with Semitic heritage from Basemath, creating a unique people who were both proud and complex. This is the pinnacle of Esau's legacy. From a simple man with a bow slung over his shoulder, he built a family, then a nation, with a culture that is both wild and profound. The story is ablaze at its hottest point, but their language and intersection will take us to a new level of this journey. Hold on tight, because the climax is far from cooling down. From the stone fortresses on Mount Seir, where Esau and his family turned the rich red land into the homeland of the Edomites, the story now shifts to a new aspect, their language and culture. Picture Esau sitting around a campfire with his sons Eliphaz, Ruel, and others, recounting his hunting days. At first, those tales were told in ancient Aramaic, the language of his ancestors, for both Esau and Jacob were descendants of Aram, a branch in the Semitic lineage. This was the tongue that Abraham once used to pray, a language echoing from the days after the Great Flood. But as the Edomites grew up in the land of Seir, their speech began to change, not by chance, but because of the women Esau brought into his family. Do you remember the wives of Esau? Ada and Oholibamah came from Canaan, bringing with them the customs and language of that land. Canaan was not just a place of idol worship. It was also the cradle of a rich language, a blend of tribes like the Hittites and Horites. Basemath, the daughter of Ishmael, carried the breath of the Arabian desert with deep Semitic tones. As the sons and grandsons of Esau grew up, they didn't just learn Aramaic from their father. They began to speak the Canaanite language that their mothers sang to them, the language of the caravans passing through Seir. Scholars today refer to the language of the Edomites as a unique blend, rooted in Aramaic, yet rich with Canaanite flavor, sprinkled with a touch of Ishmaelite influence. Just think about it. From storytelling in Aramaic around a campfire, they transitioned to singing Canaanite songs under the desert moon, a change that was both subtle and powerful. But language is just the surface. The cultural intersection of the Edomites runs much deeper. Living at the crossroads of the ancient Middle East, they couldn't escape the influence of neighboring peoples. The Egyptians called them Shu, meaning people of the sand, due to their nomadic lifestyle in the desert. Esau, that is Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir, Genesis 36 verse 8, but that land did not isolate them. They traded with caravans from the Red Sea to Damascus, learned pottery techniques from Canaan, and even adopted some worship customs from Esau's Canaanite wives. Yet, at their core, they remained Semitic, with the blood of Abraham flowing in their veins, reminding them of their sacred origins even as they strayed far from the covenant of Israel. This is where the story takes on another layer of drama. The Edomites not only changed their language, they became a bridge between ancient cultures. They retained the strong spirit of Esau, yet also absorbed the best and worst from Canaan and Ishmael. This made them both proud and complex, a people skilled in wielding swords, but also capable of singing the songs of the desert. Have you ever wondered why God placed the Edomites at this crossroads, where they could both maintain their identity and blend with the world? Perhaps he wanted them to be a testament that even when straying from the covenant, his mark never fades away. This intersection is not just history. It's the key to understanding the descendants of Esau today. Their language, though transformed, still leaves traces and inscriptions on stones in modern Jordan. Their culture blends ancient Aramaic, Canaanite, and Semitic like a vibrant tapestry, reflecting the life of a people who continually adapt. From Esau, the storyteller in Aramaic, to the Edomite leaders singing under the skies of Seir, their legacy is a symphony of change and resilience. The climax of the story is approaching. Can you feel it? We are about to uncover what remains of the Edomites in today's world. From the Canaanite songs echoing under the sky of Seir, from the blend of Aramaic and Semitic languages that the Edomites sang, we now arrive at the biggest question. Where are the descendants of Esau today? After thousands of years, as empires like Babylon, Persia, and Rome swept through the Middle East, did the Edomites vanish like sand in the desert? The answer will surprise you. They are still here, not as an ancient kingdom, but as a vibrant part of the modern world. Let's step into this climactic moment, where the biblical past meets the present day. The Bible marked the land of Esau from the very beginning. The Lord said to me, I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as his own, Deuteronomy 2 verse 5. Seir, that richly red mountainous region, now lies in southern Jordan, around landmarks like Petra, the famous rock-carved city. The ancient Edomites did not vanish as history unfolded. Over the centuries, they blended with other Semitic peoples, the Arab tribes living in the desert and on the hills of present-day Jordan. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of them in the red stone ruins, the inscriptions carved into the cliffs, and even in the DNA of the local population. This is the pinnacle of the story. The descendants of Esau still live on, carrying his bloodline within them, even though the name Edom no longer appears on the map. Imagine, from an Esau with a bow slung over his shoulder, a man who loved the fields more than tents, now as descendants of the people of Jordan, shepherds, traders, and desert dwellers living on the very land that God granted him thousands of years ago. They are no longer a distinct nation with kings and fortresses like in ancient times, but the legacy of Esau still echoes through the mountains of Seir. When you stand in Petra today, gazing at the vibrant red cliffs under the sun, you can feel the strong spirit of Esau's spirit that never bows down to the passage of time. But here's what makes your heart resonate. Their existence is a testament to the faithfulness of God. Even though Esau wasn't chosen for covenant like Jacob, he still kept his promise to him: a land, a people, a legacy. Esau, that is Edom settled in the hill country of Seir, Genesis 36, verse 8, and he ensured that gift would not be erased. The Edomites blended into the flow of history, yet their Semitic imprint remains, like a red thread woven through the modern Jordan tapestry. Have you ever thought that a person like Esau, who sold his birthright for a bowl of soup, could leave behind such a lasting legacy? From a solitary hunter, Esau gave rise to a nation that has survived through the ages, now blended yet unchanged in the land of Jordan. The mystery has been unveiled. The descendants of Esau are still here, right before our eyes. Emotions are reaching a fever pitch, but the story isn't over. How did they become part of the larger picture in Jordan? Let us reflect on the next chapter, for God still has something to teach us through the people of Edom. After discovering that the descendants of Esau still live among the people of modern Jordan, the story now softens, leading us to a broader picture. The land of Jordan is not just home to the Edomites. It is a crossroads of many ancient peoples, each contributing its own unique hue to God's plan. Imagine standing on a hill in Jordan today, looking down at the valley stretching out beneath the sunlight. Surrounding you are the ruins of the past, the red stone walls of the Edomites, the remnants of the Ammonites and Moabites, and even the caves that once belonged to the Horites. This is not just a piece of land. It is a vibrant tapestry, woven from the threads of history and faith. Before the people of Edom set foot on Mount Seir, this land was already home to the Horites, a mysterious people who lived in rocky caves. The Bible mentions them. The Horites used to live in Seir, but the descendants of Esau drove them out. Deuteronomy 2, verse 12. The Horites left their mark on the cliffs. But when Esau arrived, they made way for the Edomites as if God had prepared this land for a new chapter. Then other Semitic nations emerged, enriching the tapestry of Jordan. The Ammonites and Moabites, descendants of Lot, Abraham's nephew, settled in the northern and eastern parts of Jordan. The Ammonites called them Zamzamites. The Lord destroyed them and settled the Ammonites there. Deuteronomy 2, verses 20 to 21. These nations brought their own culture, language, and customs, intertwining with the Edomites to create a diverse land. Think about it. Jordan is like an ancient crossroads where nations gathered, traded, and sometimes clashed. The Edomites built fortresses in Seir, while the Ammonites established a city in Rabbah, and the Moabites left behind commemorative stone pillars. Over the centuries, this land has carried many names, from Uzi, in the time of Esau, to Edom, Ammon, and Moab. But at its heart, it remains a homeland of the Semitic descendants, those who bear the bloodline of Abraham and Lot. Today, archaeologists are digging through Jordan and uncovering evidence. Pottery from Moabites, inscriptions from the Edomites, and the ruins of cave dwellings from the Horites. All of this blends together, creating a vibrant cultural tapestry that you can feel when you stand in Petra or Wadi Rum today. But here is where the story touches the heart. The diversity of Jordan is not random. It is a testament to the hand of God throughout history. Though the Edomites were not chosen like Israel, and though the Ammonites and Moabites have a complex beginning from Lot, each nation has its place in his plan. The Lord works out everything to its proper end. Proverbs 16, verse 4. The Edomites carry the strength of Esau, while the Ammonites and Moabites embody the perseverance of Lot. All are part of a larger picture of salvation. Have you ever wondered why God placed these nations side by side, with stories that are both similar and different? Now, we see that Jordan is not just a land of Esau. It is a place where Semitic peoples intertwine, leaving a timeless legacy. From the red fortresses of Edom to the ancient cities of Ammon, this land tells a story of survival, convergence, and divine purpose. The narrative is calming down, inviting us to reflect. How do these peoples, with all their diversity, still reflect God's love for humanity? Let's step into the final part to seek the answer. As we stand on the land of Jordan, where the Edomites of Esau blend with the Ammonites, Moabites, and the remnants of the Horites, the story now transcends mere history or geography. It becomes an invitation to delve deep into the hidden message within the scriptures. Imagine holding the book of Genesis in your hands, flipping to the page that tells of Esau and Jacob, two twin brothers, two paths, two nations. From the dramatic birth within Rebekah's womb to the red mountains of Seir, this tale is not just an old chapter. It is a reflection of God's grand design, a lesson in blessing, distinction, and timeless salvation. Esau and Jacob represent two distinct paths. Esau, with his ruddy complexion and wild spirit, chose the fields over the tents, selling his birthright for a bowl of red stew. Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. So Esau despised his birthright. Genesis 25, verse 34. Jacob, with his cunning and patience, embraced the covenant that God promised to Abraham. But don't be quick to think of Esau as the loser in this story. God granted him the land of Seir. The Lord said to me, I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as his own, Deuteronomy 2, verse 5. This isn't just a consolation prize. It's a true blessing, a gift for someone outside the main covenant. Have you ever wondered why God still cared for Esau, even though he wasn't the chosen one? The answer lies in the heart of the Bible. God does not abandon anyone in his plan. The Edomites, though they did not carry the covenant like Israel, were still given a land, a heritage, and a place in the history of salvation. The Ammonites and Moabites, despite their complex origins from Lot, so both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father, Genesis 19, verse 36, were not forgotten. They became strong nations in Jordan, living alongside the Edomites as distant relatives. This is something that makes you pause and reflect. Even those who seem lost, like Esau selling his birthright or Lot and his mistakes, are still within the sight of God. The Lord works out everything to its proper end. Proverbs 16, verse 4. Every detail, every path, serve his purpose. Think deeper about Esau. He was not just an impulsive hunter. He symbolizes those who live outside the covenant, yet are still blessed by God. His Edomite people, with their rock fortresses and blended culture, stand as a testament that he loves not only the chosen people, but all of humanity. When the Israelites passed through the land of the Edomites on their journey to the promised land, God commanded, do not provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land. Deuteronomy 2, verse 5. This serves as a reminder that Esau, despite being different from Jacob, still has a part in the plan of salvation, a part that he protects with his very words. For Christians, this story strikes right at the heart of our faith. Esau and Jacob are not just two brothers. They represent a divine distinction. One side is a path of physical strength, while the other is a path of spiritual faith. Yet both are in the hands of God. The descendants of Esau blend into Jordan today, reminding us that he blesses all nations, even those who do not bear the title of chosen people. Have you ever felt like you resemble Esau imperfect, not the first in line, yet still loved? That is a hidden message. God's love knows no bounds, shows no favoritism, and always seeks to draw us closer to him. As the light of the story begins to fade, let it ignite a fire within your heart. From two twin brothers, God created nations, tested them, blessed them, and called them to salvation. The people of Edom are now part of Jordan, but their legacy stands as a testament to his faithfulness, a faithfulness that continues to write the story of you and me. Take this lesson home. You have a place in his plan, whether you feel more like Esau or Jacob. The story ends here, but the message will echo on forever. Thank you for joining us on this inspiring journey about Esau, from a ruddy hunter in Isaac's tent to the ancestors of the Edomites. Still vibrant in Jordan today, we have seen God bless him through the land of Seir, connect him with Job, and place his people within the diverse tapestry of the scriptures. If you felt his love and faithfulness through this story, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel to explore more sacred mysteries together. Esau's journey reminds us that everyone has a place in God's plan, and that includes you. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. May God bless us all. Welcome to the Bible Hub Bible Stories channel, where we bring you inspiring and meaningful Bible stories. We are proud to introduce the talented screenwriter of our channel, a passionate young woman with a deep love for the Bible. She doesn't just write profound stories, but also helps viewers gain a deeper understanding of God's faith and love through each script. Writing scripts is not only her passion, but also her mission, which brings each video to life with energy and inspiration. We would also like to introduce the channel owner, the heart and soul of our channel. He constantly gives us all, overcoming any challenge to deliver the highest quality videos and convey a powerful message to everyone. We hope you'll continue to join us on our journey with Bible Hub, Bible stories, as we explore and spread the message of God. Thank you for your love and support.